The nation, our nation, the United States of America is suffering from two public health crises, COVID-19 and police brutality. Although they both have affected the lives of millions of individuals, however, it is only one that we can do something about immediately, and thus our conversation today, the STOP, improving police and community relations. So many people ask me, Dwayne, why are you so passionate about this topic? Why do you care so much and why are you so engaged? And I tell them that the reasons are twofold. Number one, my students. I was doing a workshop on bullying actually in Chicago's South Side at Drake Elementary School. And I asked a group of 4th, 5th, and 6th graders, if you were on the playground playing, minding your own business and doing nothing wrong, if a police car drove over, what would you do? And they said, run. I said, wait a second, you didn't understand me. I said, you're playing, you're minding your own business, you're doing absolutely nothing wrong. Why would you run? The students said, we would run because we don't want to get shot and we don't want the police to harass us or stop us from going home. I stood on the side for a moment and I paused. And I was very concerned and very alarmed because I was thinking to myself, these are our babies, 4th, 5th, and 6th graders. What happens when they become 9th, 10th, and 11th graders? What happens when they become 27, 28, and 29 years old? And I began to realize we have a problem in this country. But two of the bigger boys said something differently. They said, well, I wouldn't run. I said, good, why not? They said, because if the police disrespect me, I'm gonna disrespect them. And I said, oh no, that's gonna be even worse. So what I did is I thought back quickly to myself. You can barely see this, but I thought back quickly when I was a kid. What was I thinking about police and law enforcement and community interaction? And even though I've had an encounter in elementary school that could have went one way or the other, I never thought about the trauma of police killing me. And so what I realized is our children today, they have a reality that we never had. The reality is, even when I was growing up, police brutality was even worse than it is now. The difference is we didn't see it, unless it came rarely on the nightly news. Today, with the advent of the cell phone, with social media, our young people are seeing police brutality almost on a weekly basis. And what's happening there is that is trauma. It is affecting their academics. It is affecting their social, emotional health. So today what we're going to do is explore the entire conversation. We're going to pull the covers off. Why is police and the Black community relations so difficult? So what I want you to do at any time in here, if you want to pause, if you want to have a conversation with your students or with your children, please do so. And that way you keep your young people engaged. So I asked my students a simple question. When I say the word police, what comes to mind? The answers may shock you, but this is what I want you to do. Before I share the answers that my students gave me, I want you to pause the video right here, and I want you to ask the students that you may be talking to, or ask your children, when you say the word police, what comes to mind? And then when you unpause, then I'm going to reveal to you the answers that my students shared with me. Here are the answers that my students shared with me. They may shock you. Run. Hands up. Don't shoot. Racist. Murderer. Cop. Killer. Protector. KKK. Liar. Warrior. Friend. Enemy. Death. Good guy. Handcuffs. Can't breathe. Violent. Blue. Pig. 12. 5-0. Guardian. My daddy. Heartless. No words. So when you think about all of these different terms, it is clear, America, we have a crisis in this country. And I'm going to show you in a little bit what the data is saying, because we may think these are just urban students or just Black and Hispanic students, but you're going to see there's a growing number of concern, not just by our Black and brown citizens, but also by our white American citizens as well. The second question I asked the students is, who has the power in a police encounter? And overwhelmingly, the majority of the students said the police. And what was interesting about that, I said, no, that's not the only answer. And they said, well, how do you think? Why don't you think the only answer is the police? I said, because if I teach you that the police are the only people with power, then I'm teaching you that you're powerless. And I told them, I guarantee you, you also have power in that encounter. They said, well, what is my power? I said, you have power over your word choices. You have power over your body language. Do you run or do you not run? Do you stand confidently? I said, you also have power over your tone. And then they cited many incidents of people who use the right words, who use the right tones. And I said, I hate to tell you that the information I'm going to give you, I wish it was 100% proof, but it's not. But I can guarantee you it will highly increase your probability that you will not only make it home, but you will also reach your destiny. So what did I do? After hearing the concerns of my students, I realized that I cannot just do what most people do, is complain and talk about law enforcement, but I knew that I had to get actively involved. I had to put my skin in the game. So the first thing I did is I joined COPA, the Civilian Office of Police Accountability. Now, this is an organization that the entire nation needs to know about, because if you're in a different city, then there are things you can do. Having a police accountability board is very important. So, COPA, our vision is to be the leader in police accountability by conducting thorough investigations to advance the culture of policing and build trust in civilian oversight. So check this out. COPA has several different pillars. One is integrity. COPA strives for excellence and quality and fairness in everything we do, because we realize if you don't have integrity, you can't build trust. Whether it's police or whether it's community, whether it's individuals, no matter what, if you don't have integrity, you cannot build trust. The second pillar is transparency. COPA is committed to openly sharing information about our work, because when the community calls, we want them to know that COPA is actively sharing with you information, because we learned that when you're hiding information and you're not releasing information at the proper time, then people can also lose trust. The next pillar, timeliness. COPA strives to conduct police misconduct investigations that are both thorough and timely. We have an amazing chief, Chief Sydney Roberts, and she is disciplined, and she is making sure that her investigators, her attorneys, and her staff are working diligently to ensure that we have integrity, we have transparency, we have timeliness, and the last thing is independence. COPA makes finding out about police misconduct without regard for external influences or political consequences. We're not concerned with the politics of the city or the politics of the state or even the politics of the nation. The concern is police accountability, because we believe that the majority of police officers are good professional people, but we also know that there's a remnant in there that must be held accountable for their actions. So what I do on COPA is I serve in the civilian advisory capacity. I'm on the civilian board, and it is absolutely an honor to be able to understand what's going on. There's another level that I've gotten involved with right here. I am an alumni of the FBI Citizens Academy. We've had the pleasure of going to the J. Edgar Hoover building in DC, visiting the Pentagon, going to the range, the Department of Justice, Interpol, also taking classes right at the FBI headquarters in Chicago. Now people said, DB, are you gonna be a snitch? You gonna be a sellout? My people, my people, my people. How about this? An intelligent person wants to learn everything about whatever it is that they're passionate about. And I'm passionate about our young people. I'm passionate about making sure that they have the tools, that they know how to navigate this thing called life. So therefore, I had to understand police accountability, and I also had to understand law enforcement. What better, what greater law enforcement agency than the Federal Bureau of Investigation? So we learn what they research, we learn the different departments, we learn the different roles of the agents, we learn about HGVEs, homegrown violent extremists that are literally destroying our country. We learn so many different things. And I also learned that according to the FBI, many neo-Nazi and white supremacy organizations or individuals have infiltrated law enforcement. And when we had that conversation, I asked the question, I said, hey, let me ask you this. If this is the case, then we're going to see more killings. We're going to see more ruthless behavior by law enforcement personnel, because if I as an individual have vowed that I hate blacks, I hate Latinos, and I hate almost everything else, then you can guarantee that I will dehumanize them. I will racially profile them. I will put my knee on their neck until they take their last breath. I will beat them. I will squeeze the handcuffs. And it doesn't matter if it's a grown man or a child or a woman. I would do the same thing because a white supremacist hates anything other than white. So therefore, we must be very mindful. And the last thing someone said is, but they killed Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. I said, I agree with that as well. But I still need to get the information to understand how better to interact with my people and my community and our people and our community. Because the reality is this is the United States of America. And it's time out for black versus white. It's about wrong versus right. And if the police officers are right, we support them. If they are wrong, they must be held accountable. So my second reason for wanting to do so much involving law enforcement. The first one was my students, so I told you what happened there. The second one was I actually had a police encounter that went viral. This gentleman right here, Aaron Weller, is an Indiana State Trooper, and I'm going to tell you all about what happened, but I can share this with you. As a result of this encounter that went viral, the Indiana State Police actually came to my home. We actually had a 2+ hour conversation. And I asked him, I said, hey, did you pull me over because I was black? And he said, no, I couldn't even see what color you were. You were going 80 miles per hour. I was like, guess what I did? They invited me to do ride-alongs. And I'm sitting right beside this great officer, Aaron Weller. And I'm watching the cars go by and I'm looking at his radar gun. I'm like, whoa, that car's going 83 miles per hour. He said, let's get him. And I was like, I wanted to say I saw the person's color. Honestly, it was going so fast, I could not see the person's color. And that's when I began to realize, I have some misconceptions that I must understand. There's some things about law enforcement that I thought I knew, but when I began to engage, I realized I don't know. So what did this do for me? It gave me a greater appreciation for law enforcement. It gave me a greater sense of patience. It gave me a little bit more patience with waiting for investigations, but it also let me realize I have to be even more concerned. I have to be more aware that we must hold law enforcement accountable, but not just law enforcement, that we must educate our communities. We must let the community know what law enforcement's role and responsibilities are, because everything we think is not necessarily true. And trust me when I tell you this, I do a number of workshops with our young people, and they don't know their rights. They don't know what to do. They don't even know the rights of law enforcement. So therefore, this workshop is going to be critical and it's going to be crucial. So I want every school district, every nonprofit, everyone to get a hold of this information, because this is how we begin to build community. This is how we begin to build trust. And the information that you're about to see, some of it is going to shock you. Some of it you may already know, but all of it is going to enlighten you. And once we're able to bring this kind of information to the community, both police and community, we realize it cannot be us versus them, unless it's us, intelligent, law-abiding citizens in blue and community, versus them, the criminals, whether that criminal has a badge on and a blue uniform, or whether that criminal may have on a hoodie walking in our neighborhoods. We can no longer shelter, we can no longer shield criminals. They all must be held accountable and they all must be prosecuted. My name is Dwayne Bryant. This is part 1 of the conversation. Stay tuned because we got a lot more for you.